everyone, and welcome back to your weekly gaming podcast, the GamerGuild Podcast, where myself, Chris, and my lovely co-host Richie get together and round up all of the video game news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and also available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. You join me for an exciting episode this week as we talk about some exciting expansions coming to God of War Ragnarok, a Daredevil spin-off game from the world of Insomniac Spider-Man, and some all-new PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass reveals coming to the month of November. But before we do get into all that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and ring that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of our great content, such as this very show, our weekly live streams, and our Let's Plays that go up on the channel every single week. You're joining me, as I said, alongside my man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. Good morning, good afternoon.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, if you prefer.
Good night. Sleep tight, everyone. Sleep tight. I'm guessing most people listen to this on a Monday. I don't really know the cadence. I'm sure there's one person who listens to it on a night.
Let us know in the
like
comments in the YouTube video if you listen to this to go to bed on a Monday night.
What? I do actually listen to some podcasts when going to bed. It's something I'm one of those sleepers who, if I lay there with nothing happening, no TV on, no noise or music or something, my brain just won't switch off. I need like that background ambience to just doze off. A good one I used to use when I was in college was David Attenborough's Planet Earth. Attenborough's voice is just perfect for just like, doze off, listen to the animal sounds and the sweet descriptions.
And also,
sorts me right out.
For me, sometimes, when you've got a lot of stuff on your mind, you can't seem to turn your brain off. I've sometimes put some atmospheric music on. So you're laying in bed. When you try to fix it, you have it quite quiet, you're trying to fix it, and then you're just off.
Yeah, you're gone before you know it. Absolutely. I love listening to a podcast for that. So do let us know in the comments below if you listen to this show at any random times throughout the day and or night. No Rob this week. He's busy with work. It's taking him up as we lead into Black Friday, so he's going to be very, very busy running his business.
Yeah, I think he just did a 20-hour shift he was telling us the other day. So it's the guy
very, very painful.
He's got work to do and he needs some sleep.
Yeah, I think it's that time of year for all of us where we all kind of crunch leading into the festive period for various different reasons. So
the advantage me and you have is at a certain time of the day we can go, right, clock off.
Absolutely.
Rob does not have that, unfortunately, for him.
Correct. But, of course, we do talk about and play video games here on the channel, and that's what you are here for. So, Richie, we start every episode off usually talking about what we've been playing, and it's been quite a busy period, not only at work, but also in the world of video games. I'm sure our viewers and listeners all know this out there. What have you been playing this past week?
I've played a bit of Spider-Man, not as much as I'd want, to be honest. But again, as we've mentioned, busy with work stuff. I've been a bit bouncing around a few Pokemon games, just, when you just want something kind of brain dead to play. Mm-hmm. Just put some music on, just play something brain dead. Like Pokemon Leaf Green, I can just play with my eyes closed, basically. So just
power through it.
Yeah. With using an emulator. Sorry, Nintendo, but if you port the game to the Switch, I'll pay for it. But the advantage of an emulator is I can use speed hack, so I can play at 500% speed.
Yeah, and we do not endorse emulators on this channel, but there needs be sometimes. Yeah. What percentage through Spider-Man would you say you are now?
Story-wise, I'm probably about 80 to 90% done. Then it's just mainly clean up.
True.
Yeah.
Rings about true.
But yeah. I think for anyone who's finished the game, I think I've just got Peter's last costume change.
Oh, the last big one. Yeah.
I was trying to think of a way to get Peter in without spoilers.
It ramps up. I think last week I was saying to you or Rob, it was the fight in Times Square. It's now happened probably for you, so you're well aware of that fight in Times Square. It's quite a good spoiler free because obviously Times Square's in Newcastle, but I've finished it now. I've got the platinum trophy, finished, done, all tidied up. As I think we've said a few times on the show, I think I somehow get through things more efficiently than you do when it comes to video games. I'm actually on a double platinum this week because this morning, the joys of having a child, I was up a bit earlier than I normally am. I've also got the platinum for Assassin's Creed Mirage. So I went back over. Nice. Some of them caused me a few troubles of some of the trophies. I will say there was one which was kill 10 people from whilst blending in with a crowd. 10? Yeah, it took me about 50 for some reason. It wasn't tallying up the kills properly. Watched a couple of YouTube videos. All the comments said it was bugged for them. It didn't quite work. Some people said if you fast traveled, it broke the counter. And some people on Xbox said it was stopping at 90% achievement because it tracks them on Xbox. PlayStation doesn't, unfortunately. So I just had to hope for the best. And yeah, I was meticulously going through and just kind of in this like repeat loop cycle of like doing a big lap of the area till the enemy spawned again. I was getting worried I was going to run out of money for smoke bombs and the ability to stealth kill, because it's like a charge gauge in this game. And then yeah, finally like pinged randomly and then it's deleted from my console now. Not my favourite Assassin's Creed game, all things said and done. I think between playing things like Spider-Man and all the other amazing titles we've had this year, it's definitely a lot lower down on my list, I think. Like possibly near the bottom. Like not a bad game,
yeah,
but in the scale of all the fantastic Assassin's Creed we've had, especially in recent year, it didn't really do anything. It didn't wow me in any way. It was like a competent story. It was nicely sized, I will say that. It didn't drag itself out too much, but in hindsight, I rank it like below. I enjoyed Unity more, Syndicate more, Black Flag, like the ones that people usually criticize a little bit more. Rogue, I'd say it was below all them, so disappointing in the end, I would say. So definitely not in my Game of the Year conversation.
Yeah, for me, it's one of them games where I expect it, with being a Ubisoft game, to be in the kind of 8 out of 10 at best kind of thing, which is definitely a decent game. I definitely enjoy playing it. But there's 9s and 10s I haven't played that I have access to, so it's just like, so it's never been high on my priority list of things I want to play at the moment.
Yeah,
I'll get to it at some point. At some point in the time, I'll end up with Ubisoft Plus for some reason, and then I'll play it at that point, and I'll probably just mainline the story. I don't really like the platinum trophies for Assassin's Creed. I always find they're very just a bit of pain. They end up like I know I love Ragnarok. Was it Valhalla? But there was just so much stuff on the map. You went there, and it's just like I didn't find that stuff fun. It was just there. It's just tasks. Well, the story I really enjoyed. So
absolutely, there's probably other Assassin's Creed games I'd recommend before this one, but it's done. It's out the way, which means I can dabble in other things. Me and the wife did start Alan Wake Remastered.
All right,
so I've started that one. Very enjoyed it. I think that was another interesting thing, going back and starting Alan Wake around spooky season last weekend. It can be realised, even though Alan Wake's quite an old game, I initially started like enjoying just the premise and the story. It's Remedy, so it's very much in my wheelhouse of third person, over the shoulder, little bit of spooky elements. It's got a story. It's got literal chapters. So when we finished the first chapter, it was great as a couple to go like, right, do you want to draw the line under it tonight? Like we'll end there, and then we'll pick it up at the it literally ends by going like chapter 1, chapter 2. Yeah, and again, because it's the premise of it is it's obviously Alan's a writer telling a horror story almost. It chapters it really, really well. And all the praise I'm hearing for Alan Wake 2, that might be like my next game.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, what's next?
Well, I'm in this perfect time now where I have time. I mean, I don't have time between work, children, and Christmas and stuff, but in terms of what I'm playing, my big ones for the year are done now. That's it. So now I have this great, like, kind of 2-month window of just what I want. So recommendations in the comments down below. As I said, I've started Alan Wake, potentially leading into Alan Wake 2, like just do a 1-2 punch. But yeah, I'm open to kind of suggestions. I want to dabble a little bit. I am planning on streaming Rise Son of Rome for its 10-year anniversary later in the month. I think on the 19th of November, that game will be 10 years old at the launch of the Xbox One. So what a time to go back and play that one. I think that's about a 7-hour title, so I should be able to get through that pretty quickly. But yeah, do let me know. Alan Wake, good. Alan Wake 2 in the Game of the Year running, so plenty to play and plenty to talk about.
I'm still planning a streaming Ocarina of Time.
Get it in there,
I know, I need to. It's in my calendar to prep all the thumbnails and stuff, and it just keeps getting moved.
Pushback. That's again, I missed out on this week's live stream for timings and stuff. One of the things aside from playing games I did want to touch on this week, I tweeted about it, but I've been doing a little bit of light reading, and that comes in the form of this magazine for audio listeners. It is the Unofficial Retro PlayStation Magazine. This was a Kickstarter that was started by a gentleman called Sandeep Rai on Twitter at 2_old_4_gaming. Designer James Madison and editor Ian Ryan. I want to give a shout out to them because I saw this on, actually heard it on another podcast, the Sacred Symbols PlayStation podcast, and they recommended it. It's basically, if anyone used to back in the day get the PlayStation magazine, it's kind of like a retro look back at that. So it's got PSP, PlayStation Vita. And it starts up with talking about like the launch games on the PlayStation 1 lineup. Goes through, it's very, very nice presented magazine, very glossy. Goes through the history of some of the launch titles. Started off, Richie, just to give you a bit of history. I know we always end the show with like looking back on this day. Launch title for the PlayStation 1: 3D Lemmings, Air Combat, Battle Arena, ESPN Extreme Games, Jumping Flash, Kalik, DNA Imperative, NBA Jam Tournament, Nova Storm, never heard of half of these, by the way, The Raiden Project, Rayman, that was one that I had, Rayman, the original one, just there, Ridge Racer, Street Fighter, Total Eclipse, and Wipeout. That was my other one, my other classic that I had back in the day, and that was it.
How many people do you think would have guessed, say, Crash Bandicoot was a launch title?
Probably a lot of people, but he came like the following year, didn't he, from Naughty Dog? Yeah. But yeah, it goes into some good. It's got some good op-eds. It's got a good breakdown of like kind of retro reviews of things like Siphon Filter with interviews from the people who worked on it. It was one of those things as a Kickstarter saw it really good. It's a little like a smaller style magazine. It's every quarter, so this is September to December. I think the next one goes into actually the back issue 2. God of War.
I think every quarter is a nice cadence for something like that.
It is.
Like, if it's every week or every month, I think you end up getting things just piling up and then you're not reading them. Every quarter, it's a bit more of an event to look forward to.
Absolutely. And I used to love reading the PlayStation magazines. I used to buy like PlayStation Max, where you got like stickers and stuff to put on your console. A nice little side note for this magazine as well. It came with a little booklet called Photo Mode, which I didn't expect. And it's basically all users could send in their photos they've taken. So all the people who've actually snapped the shots in game. It's just like a nice little glossy photos taken. This issue Spider-Man.
That's really cool.
But how cool is that? So it's basically everyone who's took like gorgeous photo mode shots. It's very timely because of the way Spider-Man is now.
Yeah. I'm guessing they probably in the last issue put a shout out like, okay, send in your screen grabs to this thing, and then we'll pick a selection you might get into the booklet.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought it's just a nice way to showcase kind of like your fans and your audience in like a little mini episode within it. But yeah, so shout out to Unofficial Retro PlayStation Magazine. I'll put the link in the description, but the content's there because, again, it's a Kickstarter. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, some physical media for you all out there, go check it out. Right, Richie, let's get into, without further delay, the bulk of the show. If you could introduce us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette. A.K.A. The News.
The News. And as every week, the news is brought to you by our wonderful members, the fantastic folks who support the channel that extra little bit further, which you can over on YouTube by clicking join down below. From as little as 99 pence, you get early access to this very show, some other videos, stickers and badges next to your name in the super chat, and much, much more. Another shout out again for our merch store this week, because we're very lax on this one. We launched a merch store a few months back, celebrated it, and then we always kind of forget to talk about it. There's t-shirts, hats, mugs, coasters, anything you can think of with either the GamerGuildTV logo on, some of our other episodes, our little pixelated characters of ourselves,
which I have one on my Xbox actually.
You do, you stuck it to it. And I guess we should start pushing it because we're heading into Christmas. So if you think of that perfect gift idea for yourself, because let's face it, you're probably not going to buy it for someone in your friends or your family circle, treat yourself.
I personally am fond of my Gamer Guild mug, which I use at work.
It does. The logo looks very good on like an all black mug.
But there's another thing I need to actually shout out. It's more of an apology. I forgot to dedicate the news section to our members last week. So
that is terrible. That is
terrible. The news last week as well was brought to you by our Guild Heroes.
The news every week is brought to you by our Guild Heroes. But yes, we couldn't do it without you, especially we know times are tough right now, so anyone who can spare that 99p or above, it is massively appreciated. And anyone who's listening on podcast services, it wouldn't happen without that, because we do pay for podcast distribution to make sure it gets out to the most platforms. And Google Podcasts is going, so I'm sure the price won't be affected by that one at all. Right, Richie. We've got our members. They're there supporting us. Let's get into the thick of the news because, as I said, we've got a busy, exciting show. Story number 1 of the week. God of War Ragnarok DLC or an expansion could be inbound, according to news reports. So reading from Dextero over on there, a potential leak of God of War Ragnarok DLC or a spin-off will be announced by the end of the year, possibly at the Game Awards. Following on from months of rumours, it seems to be in the works with an announcement coming soon. Spanish outlet Unos, I'm not going to butcher that again, has accurately reported leaks in the past. Their report says a source close to Sony confirms that Sony Santa Monica has been working on DLC for quite some time. The Game Awards this year does happen on this, December the 7th, and typically Sony does have a presence at the event. We've seen trailers in the past. We've had The Last of Us factions teased and some of the big showcases. So, Richie, I want to pass it over to you. We both absolutely love God of War Ragnarok. I think it was our game of the year last year for the two of us, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
We both got the platinum in it as well, if I remember rightly. Where does this go for you? Are you expecting, if it is true, which I wouldn't be surprised. We didn't have it for the 2018 God of War, but we've since had it for things like Spider-Man with Miles. We've had it in the past with Uncharted. We've got Horizon Burning Shores. It seems to be Sony like to kind of segment DLC or expansions in after the fact. What are you looking for in a God of War Ragnarok DLC, or would you prefer a standalone, smaller title?
A standalone, smaller title. Give it the Lost Legacy treatment. Let it become a bit bigger than just a bit of DLC. Maybe focus around a different character. Instead of you're not playing as Kratos, maybe you are focused more on Atreus. Or Atreus' missus, what's her name? I'm trying to remember.
Angrboda.
Angrboda, yeah. Maybe focus around, maybe she's the focal character.
His missus, or his love interest / potential girlfriend. His missus. Atreus is far too young to be married. In the lifespan of a god, he's getting married far too young, if that's the case.
Yeah, but you know what I meant.
But yeah, that aside, yeah.
But I think I'd focus on there, because with where the God of War ended up, I think there's a story a short story to tell with them two before you go into whatever the next pantheon is. Because that's kind of what's been already implied with God of War, with Ragnarok. That was kind of, this was always a duology. So there wasn't there is no planned third game within the Norse mythos. So maybe use a smaller title where you can just explore other characters in and around that world. I think could be quite interesting. But I think I would prefer it as a standalone rather than just a DLC. Yeah, because it's been.
I'm with you on that.
For me, I don't really like DLC. In some ways, I like the way Sony approach it, where we're going to focus on getting the game done right properly first, then we're going to move on to the DLC. But the downside of that is it's usually maybe sometimes 6 months, 2 years before the DLC comes out. And by that point, it's what they did with Horizon Frozen Wastes back in the day. It's it came out so much long after the game, but it's also kind of mid-game story content. So it's when you jump back into a fully level character, it just never feels right. So you want to do a start again. You have that kind of decision. Where if it's a standalone game, you can just jump straight in. It's expecting this is effectively a new title. There's no previous expectation on you. I prefer that personally.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you. Actually, what I did do this week after I finished Assassin's Creed Mirage is I thought I'd give the PlayStation 5 cloud streaming a whirl. And one of the things I need to get back to is Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores, the DLC, because I bought it upon launch thinking I'll play it, and then I think Jedi Survivor distracted me. So I never got around to it, so I thought I'll boot it up in the streaming. Runs great, by the way, PlayStation 5 cloud streaming. From what I tested out for the first couple of minutes, ran great, game look at not as good, obviously, it running natively, but performed really, really well, so very impressed so far with that. That's the same DLC where I started, I'm level 50 plus whatever, it played like a voice clip of what I'm guessing the end of the campaign was. Silence rang me and said, Aloy, come and check this out, and now I have to head to what is the Burning Shores. But I feel very overwhelmed with all of my gear, all of my inventory. Yeah. Can't really remember what the buttons are, and it's been so long now. Whereas I think you're right, games like Miles Morales and Uncharted Lost Legacy, they have a definitive introduction point, like a fresh book. They have a definitive middle and they have a very competent end for all intents and purposes.
Oddly, I think it would be easier to do an Uncharted DLC as part of the main game later, because the mechanics are not that overly complex. So you could quite easily fall back into the rhythm there, where something like a God of War, Horizon, there's a lot of muscle memory, there's a lot of specific abilities, understanding how the character plays and combos and different abilities, where something like Uncharted is largely just point and click for a lot of it, really. Yeah, great games, but absolutely. So it's just...
Completely agree with you on that one. And I do think the way Ragnarok ended, it does set up well for potential side characters. I think there's a few story threads that maybe could be wrapped up a little bit neater. So it's spoilers, but not really spoilers. But I'd like Trace and Mamiya to maybe... not Mamiya, sorry. Sindri. Yeah. To maybe have a story arc of their own. If you finish the game, you'll know kind of how that ends and what that could look like.
That could link into what I was saying.
Yeah, it could be its own thing. But I think, a good 10 to 12 hour tale. The world exists. I'm more than happy for them to just open up another realm and for us to go and have a story in another realm.
That's it, because they have the whole Norse realms, and you've only ever went in a little bit of it, so they have basically unlimited ability to just go, right, we're just going to go back to Svartalheim and we're just going to go in a different part of the world.
Absolutely. Do what we want. And did we ever go to Earth or Midgard in both games? Like a small town on Earth, or is that just one that we oddly avoided? Like where we live, where we preside.
No, actually, isn't that where most of the game actually takes place in Midgard?
But aren't you just in a forest or something? You're not like in. You've got like you said.
Yeah,
you
but
could
like
go
the Great
else
Lake, I think
realms.
that's in Midgard. Like the main hub of the world is Midgard. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong.
Oh, so I guess you are restricted a little bit too, just like around the main lake area.
Yeah, so you probably spent more time in Midgard than any other of the realms.
Maybe it's because you're there, I guess. But,
yeah,
yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. In terms of the game, though, yeah, I think it's about the right time. But as you said, so long has passed.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, almost to the day. Yeah. Remember, Black Flag was supposed to come out this time last year as well, and that's been pushed back again. But yeah, I guess at the Game Awards that seems about appropriate. We know Christopher Judge loves talking at the Game Awards. He had like a 20-minute monologue, didn't he, last time when he won the award last year? So yeah, I'm more than happy for that. I think it's very exciting stuff, and I guess we could see new characters. In terms of God of War itself, I, as someone who never really dabbled in the original action-heavy games, I know we said this is a duology. I would love them to take the characters and just return to like kind of Greek mythology roots or Roman mythology. Like just give us another one. Like take the characters, or some of the characters at least,
a remake,
put me in like a different setting. Yeah, like take the original storylines and maybe weave it in, because we know this is the same Kratos from the original games, but I just want more combat style exploration and story as God of War. But I'm also a sucker for Greek mythology. I
think if you're doing a remake, though, you have to be kind of true to the original vision of how the combat played out, which is very different to these games. But you could do something like work quite well, but it would just be a different game. But you could continue Kratos' story, having whatever's next story arc is, instead of just going, this is all set in the Norse pantheon before it was in the Greek pantheon, maybe he is going back to his roots. Maybe that is the next part of his character journey, is to revisit his roots and the story of why he left and came
unfinished business.
Because that's never really explained.
It's not, no. And as someone who's only really played the duology reboot, I'm kind of like ignorant to it all, so there'll be a massive audience out there who did play it and some didn't. So I think there's a perfect melding of the two, which could be could come together. So yeah, very exciting stuff. God of War, fingers crossed. Hopefully, I will be all over that when it does, if it does get announced. Moving on to story number 2 of the week, keeping in the realm of DLC and expansions. Spider-Man 2. We're just wrapping up. Richie's finishing the story. I've got the platinum. I'm sure many of you out there are thoroughly enjoying it. It's PlayStation 5's best-selling game of all time, after all. People are starting to kind of get their hands into the world now and dig deeper into the city of New York and see what they can find. And there's been a particular Easter egg this past week, which has been dug out there in the wild to potentially tease upcoming content or DLC. Brian Interhard, who was the video game, I think, creative director, has been doing the rounds as well on a couple of gaming podcasts. I think he was at IGN, he was at Kind of Funny, talking about in depth for like an hour plus about the game, about the total spoiler cast, going in depth in it. And what's kind of came to fruition about this is a couple of questions around the existence of Daredevil, aka Matt Murdock, existing in the world of Insomniac Spider-Man. And the reason being is there was a clip, I don't know if you've seen it already, Richie, but there was a small area in Hell's Kitchen, which is where he traditionally resides, or nearby Hell's Kitchen, Upper West Side, where there's a building that seems to highlight the Hand, which for anyone who watched the Netflix Daredevil series or familiar with the comics or the books, they're the kind of the goons who you take down throughout Daredevil, like your cannon fodder, the multiple enemies. And somebody found a room where basically you go in and there's lots of symbolism around the room that references the Hand. There's red flags, there's signs up on the wall, there's swords, almost like in a hidden armory. And it's not just like, your typical, they just have the window effect to make it look like it's a 3D room. This is an actual detailed room with like a candle burning inside it, and it's too obvious to not be. Now, in the first game, there was a sign for where Nelson and Murdoch's lawyer firm was, and that was not there on this one. The plaque on the entrance to the house was blank. That has since been patched in an update, so it does say Nelson Murdoch, because there was rumours saying like they've moved house, they've moved out, the lawyer firm's been shut down or whatever. But Brian Intihar doing all of the interviews this week, when asked and pushed a little bit further about Daredevil, he just kind of like coyly said, like, watch this space or you'll have to wait and see. So I'll pass this over to you, Richie. Yeah. Knowing fine well that I've been shouting about a Daredevil game in the style of Batman Arkham for many, many years now on this channel. What do you want to see out of Spider-Man 2 DLC, and do we think Daredevil's the perfect fit?
Oddly, it's kind of similar to what we've just been talking about with God of War. It's like do the Miles Morales thing, but focus on Daredevil. You can bring Spider-Man characters in. The world's already established. A smaller title focusing on Daredevil to go with the story. Yeah, you could bring either Peter or Miles in as a playable character at certain missions. You already have them. You already have the world. Just tell a good, fairly small Daredevil game. I don't think we necessarily need the whole full city exploration kind of lots of different nodes, different mini games and stuff to collect that we've got out of Spider-Man 2. But just do a small title with focus on Daredevil. I think Insomniac would absolutely nail the combat.
Yeah, I think so as well. And that kind of goes back to, I've seen a couple of articles this week about Spider-Man 2 is basically the new Arkham series. Yeah. Like the fight style, especially with the spider sense and the dodge and the snapping to combat mechanics. It's so fluent, it's so fun. And the weird thing with New York is you don't really spend a lot of time on the ground. There's this gorgeous realised city. It's wasted. With
Daredevil, you're going to change perspective a lot, because I know he does traverse buildings and stuff, but it could be very much more grounded, very much take Hell's Kitchen, just expand it, so it's going to be largely Hell's Kitchen in the Upper West Side, generally. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to get the full New York, we're just going to zoom in and go, this is where you're going to play, and it's going to be a lot more grounded, literally a bit more boots on the ground. And just, quite different. You could even go a bit more stealthy with the approach in some ways.
You could, yeah. Give us those Mary Jane missions back.
You don't want him just walking down the street in his full Daredevil suit all the time. But maybe there's like some missions during the day where he is actually Matt Murdock going about investigating stuff. Then on the night, he gets the spandex out.
Do we ever see New York at night in Spider-Man?
Yeah, there's a few missions.
Is there? Because I can't really visualise them in my head.
The Times Square mission you mentioned earlier.
It is. Yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah, because the whole area is lit up.
I don't think there's an actual day-night cycle. It's mission-based.
It's every time you start a checkpoint, it kind of resets the timeline, doesn't it? In terms of this one, I think there's a few things. So Brian also confirmed throughout his interviews that the Wolverine game that they're working on, which we all would theorise is their next big title, is set in the same universe. So I think it's Earth 1048, if I'm not mistaken, is the one he confirmed it as. So Wolverine's in this world now, and I'm very surprised. It's not came out yet, but it doesn't look like Wolverine's in Spider-Man 2 at all. There's no reference, there's no Easter egg. I'm sure maybe there's like a very, very sly one in there somewhere, but they actively said they wanted to avoid that because they wanted Wolverine to be its own thing. It's a separate team at Insomniac working on Wolverine, so they wanted to let them kind of cook and do their own stuff. Daredevil, I wouldn't be surprised if, with Wolverine being boots on the ground, this is a very clever way of them maybe testing out the Wolverine mechanics of fighting on the ground without the swinging element. So it's almost like the Daredevil, he's like kind of a happy middle ground between a Spider-Man and a Wolverine. He's a lot more hand combat. He doesn't have like webs or anything special like Wolverine. He's on the ground in the city like Wolverine would be. I think it's like a happy medium of like testing out the different combat styles, whilst also, as you said, bringing a new character into that. We saw it with the first Spider-Man with the Silver Sable missions and the Black Cat missions, and it introduced Hammerhead and a side set character. They were all in there, and it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed the City That Never Sleeps DLC. And Insomniac very much said it's all canon, it's all part of it. If you don't need to play it, but it adds to it, just like the Miles game adds to the kind of wider story. Ganke and his girlfriend, I think Bailey she's called, coming into Spider-Man 2. It felt natural. It felt just like the cast had gotten wider. Spider-Man, Daredevil have an absolute history of working with each other in the comics, and they're both New York. They're both passionate about looking after the local neighborhoods. And I just think, it's if we got like a Miles game, 10, 12 to 15 hours of Arkham-style combat focused on Hell's Kitchen. We know Kingpin exists in this world. We saw him in the first game, so we've got that. And if you swap out like the Hunter, random people you fight around the streets for the Hand, that could be a good thing. And a side note, I don't know if you've noticed it, but we mentioned it, I think, on our first look of Spider-Man. Rand Enterprises is referenced, which is Danny Rand, which is Iron Fist, which also takes on the Hand in that kind of Defenders universe with Jessica Jones and what's the other guy called? I can't remember him. The fourth one. Mike Coulter played him. He had his own series on Netflix.
I don't know. I didn't watch any of the Netflix series.
It'll come to me. But yeah, in terms of
Green Arrow.
That, no, it's not Green Arrow. It's not Green Arrow. Why can't I think of him? Luke Cage. Luke Cage?
Yeah,
That's
that sounds
Luke
right.
Cage. Yeah, Luke Cage. It sounds like a Tekken character or something. So I was like, is it
Johnny Cage?
Johnny Cage is what I'm thinking.
Luke
of.
Cage is Johnny Cage's younger brother.
He might be. That'd be interesting. But I digress. Yes. Daredevil DLC. Whether it's DLC, which I think is actually doing the character a disservice, because I think in the absence of a proper Arkham game, Gotham Knights isn't it, and Suicide Squad won't be it. I'd love to see a Daredevil game just inspired by that.
If it was a Spider-Man DLC that's going to introduce Daredevil and then they announce a Daredevil game later, that could work.
I mean, I'd take that too. I mean, at what point do we just give the Marvel reins to Insomniac and say,
now,
you just
let's
make
do it
this
now.
Because Fantastic Four is there, teased. It's an Easter egg in Spider-Man. And of course, Avengers is there. And Square Enix messed up with Avengers, so is it free game for getting some of the Avengers in there?
They're quietly building their MGU.
They really are. And I'm all here for it. They've not done me wrong so far. We've got 3 games now and DLC, all fantastic. And Spider-Man 2 has left me in that weird place where as soon as I finished it, swinging around the city, nothing left to do. And it was like, oh man. Like, I don't want to leave this world because I've had so much fun. But yeah, 30-odd hours to get the platinum and got nothing to do now. Other than just do them random fire missions. So give us more Insomniac. Give us more. Actually, as a side note to all that Daredevil stories, I almost didn't mention it though. Did you see this week a PlayStation 2 Daredevil game leaked online?
I didn't, but I've heard about it from you.
There is a link. There is a link in the description of our doc. But basically, Daredevil: The Man Without Fear was a PlayStation 2 and Xbox game way back in when the Sony made the Daredevil movie back in like 2003. And the video's leaked online. It's got a full kind of prototype clip from that era running on PlayStation 2. And it looks good. It looks like the Spider-Man game we got back in the day. It's definitely worthwhile checking out if you've not had the time. It runs for about 17 minutes. It shows a classic PlayStation 1 kind of menu screen. The combat looks very similar to the Spider-Man games back in the day. You basically go through some Daredevil chapters. It's got comic book descriptions, comic book font. And yeah, you run around, you have power-ups, you have combos. And you fight people on the roofs of New York and on the streets. And it's just very, very timely that this game leaks in and amongst all the rumours. But it looks like...
it's one of them leaks.
Yeah, leaks specifically done on purpose. But you can grapple to walls. You can use the... referred to as the Shadow Well technique, which is heat view. Which I know Daredevil, obviously, his big thing is he's blind. So he uses echolocation to fight people. I guess Shadow World is almost his, like... Batman sense or his Assassin's Creed like scanning motion so you can see people, because obviously as the player you can see him running in the world, controlling him. But yeah, there's some interesting things that could be done there in terms of mechanics. But apparently the game started out with a modest budget, and it was increased when Sony Pictures started working on a Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck. But then it was claimed Sony didn't want the game to feature a beat-em-up style combat and any grinding mechanic, and it wanted grinding mechanics similar to Tony Hawk's game. So they reluctantly added it, and then it just seemed to all unravel and fall apart, and we got a Game Boy Advance game instead. And here we are, 20 years later, talking about potentially Daredevil coming to Insomniac's world. So, yeah, fun little teaser. It's a shame it doesn't exist. Daredevil, the Man Without Fear.
Maybe that's what they call it. Just use the title again.
Why not? It's not been used. But yeah, that was a nice little side note for that one. Moving on to our third big story of the week. Lies of P, the successful, sold 1 million copies. Pinocchio-inspired Souls-like, Soulsborne-like.
Still a strange thing when you say it. Oh, we're going to do a Soulsborne game based on Pinocchio.
Yeah, it's so cool though.
It is cool.
Sequel confirmed. The game director has confirmed. Ji-Won Choi confirmed it this week, and also some forthcoming DLC is also in the works. He thanked the community for passing 1 million sales this week and confirmed, and I quote, "Our highest priority is developing the DLC and working on our sequel." The DLC, which of course is early in development, shouldn't take too long to get out because all the hard work's already been done now. And he did quote and say, "I can promise you one thing, what I just showed you scratches merely the tip of an iceberg." So now there's all these theories going around, Richie, that basically anything that's in the public domain could be this. And I'm not going to spoil it, but there is an after-credits scene in the game which basically opens the world up to another famous IP that's also in the public domain, and it's very tantalizing. No, not Winnie the Pooh, no, but it could be now. But it just makes me think. If you think of all like the Grimm brothers tales and stuff, and all those characters that you think of from your childhood, where you were told them, like Little Red Riding Hood and stuff, you could have Lies of P and the wolves, the big bad guy at the end of it. Three Little Pigs, Hansel and Gretel, all of that kind of crazy stuff. It's all in the public domain. There's got to be some fun to be had there. But yeah, really well received. Pinocchio, Lies of P. Again, it's one of those titles I think you and me would both probably absolutely adore if it wasn't a Soulsborne game. Yeah. I know we say this on the show every single week, but I was watching clips of Elden Ring on a Let's Play series I'm watching this week, and it's like, man, I would eat this stuff up if I didn't die 200 plus times a day playing it, because I just don't have that patience in me. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I've said before, like, especially when I did take it down with the first boss in Elden Ring, one of my crowning achievements as a gamer. I get it. I totally get it. The euphoria you kind of get when you've managed to overcome that hurdle, it is a great feeling. But for me, it doesn't quite offset the amount of stress and frustration that went to get there.
Same.
That's a personal preference. I respect the games. It's just not for me.
Yeah, and I think our audience, who are predominantly like a little bit older, have families and busy lives and work. Again, that's one of those things. But it seems to be like thick and fast these games are coming out. I think Rise of the Ronin is a big PlayStation exclusive for next year. Looks gorgeous in the trailer. Combat looks fun. Has me worried that it's another Soulsborne game and it's going to come out and it's going to be reviewed and revered, and I'm going to go,
these games just need kind of a story mode. That just let me turn the difficulty down, let me experience the game you've played. Not necessarily as a developer intended it, but in a way that I can enjoy it.
Absolutely. But Lies of P sequel confirmed, so Lies of whatever, ABCDE, whatever that might be, and DLC coming soon. Maybe to Game Pass, we'll have to find out. Story number 4. Destiny 2 developer Bungie's been the next studio hit with plenty of layoffs in the video game world. Looking at this, we had, I think the news broke quite early last week, where basically they've laid off around about 8% of the staff, from veterans to fairly new people who've left through cuts. They did stress that this wasn't Sony's decision. Obviously, they were acquired by Sony over a year ago now for 3-point-something billion. In terms of it, they've said this decision wasn't made by Sony, it was internal. We know Bungie ran very much independently of it. However, CEO Pete Parsons emailed the company earlier in the week to basically say they're going to have a meeting to talk about it and some news coming out of it. Layoffs have been affected. Now, obviously, apologies to anyone who's lost their job. It's obviously sad stuff. Is this any surprise, Richie? One of the quotes that did come out this week is the last expansion for Destiny fell 45% short of its expected revenue. So it seems to be falling on hard times. What are your thoughts on these latest layoffs and Destiny's stewardship?
I'm not surprised because it's so prevalent in the video game industry, and I just generally think that if you have to go through cycles of mass layoffs for any company anywhere in the world, if you do these kind of cycles of mass layoffs and having a year later ramp up your staff, then lay off and ramp up, it's like, that's just bad management as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there's always some shedding of staff when a big game launches and it happens, because you've got QA testers and stuff, and people who writers are no longer needed because
it's different. If you've hired someone on a project basis, you have been hired to work on this project. At the end of the project, thank you for your work. You move on to the next thing, because as an employee, you're going in with that knowledge.
Yeah,
that's different to being hired on as a full-time developer for this company, where the reasonable expectation is at the end of a project you'll be moving on to the next project.
Yeah,
they're different scenarios, And unfortunately, the video game industry seems to be hiring people on permanent positions and then laying off, because the end of a project wouldn't be a layoff. That is the work complete. You were employed for the duration of this project. At the end, we can discuss potential other projects with you. If not, our contractual commitment to each other is complete. So that's a very different scenario, and it always annoys me, because it's a lot of, if you think about what it is, it's people. People often, the video game industry spread out across the world, so people often sometimes moving to different countries, uprooting their families, buying houses, getting mortgages and stuff, and then to one day someone comes in and goes, right guys, the game didn't sell very well, so all you have to pack up, off you go. And so I know he's saying stuff like all the great talented people, but that's more of a kick in the teeth as far as I'd be concerned. I think I'd be more pissed off with that statement. It's like, I just think this is bad management. Like, you should be planning. Like, it's so prevalent in the video game industry, this thing. A company like Bungie surely have the knowledge and expertise to look at the situation and go, how do we secure the employee of our talented staff here if the game doesn't land the way we want it to?
Yeah. No, I completely agree with what you're saying there. Yeah. It's poor management from that point. As you said, even if the game doesn't do well, surely they're going to need to recruit again for the next title marathon, which is rumoured to be delayed internally as well. It goes back to this big ironic thing. Remember when we reported on Bungie being brought in to overview all of PlayStation's games as a service, and one of the rumoured reasons is Last of Us Factions has been delayed is because Bungie looked at it and said it didn't have long-term viability. Now looking at the way Destiny is and Marathon shaping up with a delay, it's like, who are they to judge? Not that we know if that's the definitive reason, but it seems like all just isn't well.
This could be a blip. It could be like this DLC, this season pass, whatever it is, didn't land the way people were hoping for it didn't do the numbers, or this could actually be the tailing off of Destiny 2, because Destiny 2 has been gone for a long time.
Yeah, everything has a lifespan.
Apart from World of Warcraft. Somehow.
I mean, it's that stuff that it all does, like, even games as a service, they all do well, but eventually, like, Fortnite, I don't believe will still be as popular as it is in 10 years' time. It surely can't be, because the way the industry is there's always new stuff coming out, and I think inherently, we've said time and time again, as a video game fan, you're always looking for that new thing, and even if you've got that constant that keeps you ticking over, eventually it becomes old. Like, I have some favourite movies, and I watch them every single year, but there's still always a time when I'm like, I just don't fancy it, and I watch new stuff.
Yeah, I think Fortnite, I think it's one of them where the audience is going to age out. Its current audience is going to age out of it, move on to different things, different parts of the life, because it's the audience for Fortnite is very young. But when these kids, like these 13, 14, 15-year-olds, and then 25 with mortgages and kids and stuff, they're probably not going to be playing Fortnite as much. I think that's what's going to be Fortnite, and the next group of young kids are probably going to be playing something different.
Yeah. So what's the audience for Destiny then?
Destiny, I think it's more of a traditional gamer audience. It's probably anywhere from mid-teens to mid-60s. Like, I don't think there's a specific age demographic. There probably is. There's probably definitely a skew. But if I had to guess, late 20s, mid to late 30s is probably the core.
Yeah, I think it does. I think a lot of it is like you grew up on Halo, potentially.
But I don't think it'll be people aging out of Destiny. I think it'll just be a case of people have kind of moved on, because it's been going for a long, long time.
The risk you've also got with it is the more mature an audience gets, so the longer Destiny runs. So, like, say it hits its 10-year anniversary.
It's hard to get into.
Yeah, it's impossible to get into. We've tried several times on the channel, but yeah, if you're 10 years on from when you start playing Destiny, you don't have the time in your life to chip away. It's like you said, some of these games as a service, they become a hobby unto themselves.
Yeah.
And I think 45% drop off. It's an interesting one, but what they do with it next is it's an interesting kind of concept to think of it. Reading some of the quotes just from their website, because obviously they've tried to like put some fires out and expectations. Quoting from there, they said, while it did not delay the final shape, it strongly emphasised the importance of the project, stating it wants the expansion to be among the best games we've ever made. This has been one of the most difficult weeks in our studio's history, and we've parted ways with people we respect and admire. We've spent this week supporting one another, including those who are at the studio, as well as friends and colleagues who are no longer here. We want to acknowledge the feedback and concerns you have about Lightfall and recent seasons, as well as your response to the reveal of the final shape. We know we've lost a lot of your trust. Destiny needs to surprise and delight. We haven't done this enough, and it's going to change. The statement continued, to us the path forward is clear. We need to make the final shape an unforgettable Destiny experience. There's something in there, like the wording of it. It's like saying things like lost your trust. It doesn't set off a good footing, does it? Like acknowleding it. I think
we're not in with the Destiny community, so we don't know how things have been perceived in terms of the hardcore Destiny fans. I'm hearing that and reading that is the core Destiny audience have been complaining probably quite vocally about some of the decision making. And layoffs don't seem to be the way to fix that, in my view. Especially when you keep referring to these people you're laying off as incredibly talented people. Like, surely that's one of the people you want on your side to try and help you navigate the rocky waters.
People we respect and admire, but we just don't want them here. It seems like an odd back and forth between it. But yeah, we won't rest on it too much. Obviously, sorry for all the people who lost their jobs. I'm sure they're talented enough to pick up something elsewhere. But maybe getting out's good now. Destiny's on its way down. Marathon's an unknown quantity. Maybe now is time to go flex your muscles a little bit somewhere fresh and new.
It could be a blessing in disguise, but I'd rather personally people make the decision rather than forced.
Yeah. Moving on though to our next story of the week, another thing that's been going for a long time and seemingly has also hit a bump in the road. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is coming under intense scrutinisation, Richie. Now, similar to Destiny, we don't really dabble too much in Call of Duty anymore. I was intrigued by some of the early Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 stuff that was teased. Safe to say I'm now not looking at it, even though I have free time now. Modern Warfare 3 review from IGN for the campaign in particular gave it a 4. Bad. And read from the verdict. Modern Warfare 3's campaign commits the biggest sin possible for a globe-trotting action thriller. It's boring. What had the promise to be an intriguingly spun web of mystery instead ends up being a dusty cobweb you'd find at the back of your shed, clinging onto a 15-year-old garden toys you once had fun with. It's a pale imitation of the past, made up of an underbaked story moments that clash with attempts to introduce new combat missions, designed to encourage players' freedom that instead falls flat on their face. Yes, the gunplay is still great and the graphics are sound, design a top tier, but I couldn't help feel I was playing a shinier, less subtle version of something I've played too many times before. If this is the quality we've come to expect from Call of Duty campaigns, maybe it's for the best if a year or two is taken to reset and raise the low bar back to the heights of old. Dun dun dun. And to add to that, reading from Push Square, Call of Duty's Modern Warfare 3 trophy list is just DLC. The PS4 version of Modern Warfare 3 does have its own trophy list and a platinum to earn, but the PS5 version lives under Modern Warfare 2 and therefore requires you to own and finish a completely different game if you want 100% it on your PlayStation 5 profile. As well as reaching level 55 multiplayer, you will need to complete challenges in the new open world for zombies and for perform specific tasks. So it's unprecedented, Richie, that a $70 brand new AAA game doesn't come with a platinum trophy.
It doesn't even come with its own trophy list. It's DLC for Modern Warfare 2. What the hell?
It is unprecedented.
Is this the same for Xbox?
I mean, it's achievement score, isn't it? But
yeah, but
it's usually it's just the same stuff copied and pasted over. So not only with the early reviews from the campaign, but the fact that this is literally sitting under Modern Warfare 2. This was the concern early doors. Now it's out. Now Microsoft own it.
My prediction, though, this is going to be one of the biggest selling Call of Duty so far.
Oh, of course it is. It's Call of Duty.
Because what we're bitching here is about largely the single-player stuff that I think the hardcore Call of Duty fans probably don't care that much about. I think isn't the single-player campaign only meant to be about 3-5 hours or something as well?
Yeah, it's not.
It's like insanely short.
But this is a reboot, so this is where they had an extra decade of time nearly to. I mean, not even a decade.
It's a reboot of a game where they were already very much. The multiplayer is the key here, and the single player is just one of these things that we expected to do.
Yeah,
I think that shift probably happened during Modern Warfare 2. So the original Modern Warfare 2, not the remake one. But I don't know. It is disappointing because I thought some of the trailers looked amazing, to be honest. To hear that it's like insanely short and that it's just kind of boring and bland and yeah, it's not doing anything for me. And I was thinking about this actually earlier, and so when it comes to the price tag for a AAA game that is predominantly multiplayer, I don't necessarily think that's a problem. But it comes down like a perspective thing. If you're buying this because what you do is you just like to play Call of Duty, you play predominantly online, and you're going to put well over 100 hours into this over the course of the year before the next Call of Duty comes out, probably next year. $70 is not a bad price for that experience. However, if you're predominantly like us, predominantly single player gamer, who occasionally might have dabbled in the multiplayer, $70 is way too steep for the offering. Yeah. So this is like, for the argument of the price, I think it really does come down to perspective. It's like you, there's no way in hell I'm paying 70 quid for this game. Just not even considering it, because I won't get the benefit out of that. I probably would enjoy the campaign because I do like a bit of Call of Duty's campaign stuff. But I have very little interest in the online, so the online would be the odd thing I dabbled with. And might put maybe 20 hours in max over the course of a year, if that. So it's like, I don't think I could justify this. This would be a nice game to come to PlayStation Plus in the future for me.
Yeah, it goes back to what we said about Battlefield with the lack of campaign. What am I paying for? I could just go play Warzone for free.
Yeah.
So I just do that. And even a more of a stinger, looking back at the original Modern Warfare 3 reviews from 2011, IGN, 9. Video Gamer, 9. Eurogamer, 8. Game Informer, 9. The Guardian, 9. Destructoid, 9.5. It's worse than its predecessor, even though it's the same, but rebooted.
It kind of boggles the mind, actually. It's like, why would you do a remake of Modern Warfare 3 if you weren't fixated on the campaign, on the main campaign? Because the multiplayer side, you could either put that into Warzone as an expansion or into Modern Warfare 2. So you already have two platforms where you could put the multiplayer side. So it makes me think that the single player should have been the priority in this development.
You would think so, because then all it's about is maps, isn't it? They've said a lot of the maps from Modern Warfare 2 are going to come across.
Yeah.
Who knows? If you want another thing to sting a little bit more as well, PS5 reported file sizes are almost 240 gigabytes as well. So make sure you clear out some of that back catalogue to make way for the behemoth that is Call of Duty.
That's half your storage.
Yeah. But again, we're not experts on it. I'm sure people will still buy it in their millions. But Call of Duty on some rough waters. Hopefully their open world zombie mode might save them, because that, again,
the multiplayer could be great.
With it having the three pillars, like the three verticals within it, like campaign can take a hit. If the multiplayer is still fantastic, and then the open world zombies is like as good as zombies has been at its height, that could be enough to satiate a lot of people. I
think I've probably said this before, but I think it might be time, especially this could be the time under Xbox's ownership, where you splinter Call of Duty out. You have Warzone. Warzone is just going to be a platform for the multiplayer. We're going to do season passes. That's how we're going to fund all that sort of stuff. And then what we're going to do is every maybe 3 or 4 years, we're going to do a 15, 20 hour single player campaign. And you can have some synergy between it. So characters in the single player campaign can be skins in Warzone. And you can expand Warzone into having various different game modes as well. So that's what I would do with the franchise. And then you get both sides get the love it deserves, rather than the single player just feel like it's been tacked on, even when it feels like this shouldn't have been what it is.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting under Xbox ownership what that looks like, because I think a lot of people think, all these teams will be pivoting back to making Spyro and Crash and their own IP. It's like it's going to take many, many a year before the support studios are kind of freed. And
in a weird way, actually, if this flops even in the multiplayer side, that could be good for Call of Duty in general. It could be good for Microsoft, because then it's a bit of a power play, really. If the last game released by Activision, the last Call of Duty game released by Activision as an independent studio flops, that puts a lot like cards in like Phil's in the Xbox's hands. Goes
we had to make a change.
Clearly, the direction wasn't right. We're going to make a change.
Yeah. Although the way Call of Duty works is it'll be mapped out for the next 3 years already. The studios who aren't... Is this one Sledgehammer, maybe? But you've got Treyarch and Raven.
Isn't usually Infinity Ward?
Infinity Ward, yeah.
Modern Warfare.
It's hard to tell now because they have so many support studios helping them as well.
Toys for Bob.
Yeah, the game they made Crash Spyro games, so... Yeah, they'll have to be finish off working on what they are.
I love the name of that studio. I think it's great. Toys for Bob. It's so good.
It is. It's so random. So moving away from Call of Duty, let's look at some of your free games you're going to get for the month of November across PlayStation and Xbox. Kicking things off with PlayStation Plus. Reading from the blog, your PlayStation Plus monthly games for the month of November include Mafia 2 Definitive Edition. Don't at me on Twitter. Dragon Ball, The Breakers, and Aliens Fireteam Elite, available to claim from November the 7th through till Monday, December the 4th. Additionally, Sony Core Pictures on PS5 and PS4 is also finally launched too, so if you're going to go watch those random catalogues of Sony movies, they are there. Richie, there's a lot of jokes about Mafia in our history on the channel. I'm not going to play it. It is the PS4 version. Dragon Balls is the PS4 version, and Aliens Fireteam is the PS4 and PS5 version, which is arguably the better of the entries. Claimable games, bit of a flat month this one, right?
I think PlayStation Plus has been quite a bit of a flat year, to be honest.
Yeah,
I've said before. I'm considering dropping my tier in PlayStation Plus. It's actually next month. I think it's my renewal. I'm thinking about dropping my tier because I've not really used it. To be honest, I could have probably got away for most of this year without PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Although my PlayStation is probably the console I have that I've played the most stuff on this year, because I think that's just where the best games have been coming this year, personally. Mm-hmm. But PlayStation Plus hasn't been involved in that. Like, on the flip side, I couldn't do without Game Pass now. So it's weird.
It's mad, isn't it, how much it differentiates throughout. In terms of the titles themselves, obviously you can go claim them. We got Callisto Protocol last month. Any favourites out of these two? Three in fact. I don't know why I said two.
Not really. Maybe I think there might be a stream in Aliens Fireteam Elite, because isn't that like a multiplayer co-op shooter?
Yeah.
So I think there might be a stream in that, so I think we could have some fun with that on the channel.
Blast through hordes of xenomorphs, evade deadly prowlers and spitters, and set up defensive positions to stay alive long enough to get your fire team to safety.
Yeah, I think we should stream that. We should try and find a time. Is it a 2-player co-op?
Up to 2-player, yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe that's a stream for next week then. Or this week, potentially. Let us know in the comments if you want us to stream that. I think it could be fun, but I'm not looking at this as a game I want to play in my own time.
Yeah. Pivoting over then to Game Pass, let's see what Xbox have got on offer for this month. They added a few new ones in. We've got available from today, Headbangers Rhythm Royale, coming to Cloud Console, and PC. Jusant is out for Cloud Console. There are 2 available day one games on Game Pass, so brand new. Don't have to buy them. War Tales to Cloud Console and PC. And then later in the month, we've got actually now Thirsty Suitors is already available. That's the quirky romantic dating game RPG. Look, very interesting art style. I think it was shown off at the Game Awards, potentially. One for you, Richie, Football Manager 2024. Available day one on PC, Game Pass, and console and cloud, November 6th. Dungeons 4, November 9th, available day one. Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, available day one on Game Pass, November 9th. Wild Hearts, coming as part of the EA Play partnership, November 9th. Again, that game only came out this March, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Spirity, November 13th, available day one on Game Pass. And Coral Island, November 14th, along with some other DLC for other titles such as Age of Empires coming along the way. A few titles are also leaving: Football Manager 23, Ghost Song, Coffee Talk, and Townscaper, amongst others. But side by side, Richie, it's very rare we get the news at the same time of these two catalogues and we're able to actually compare them. Game Pass just shitting all over PlayStation Plus this month. Whether you're into certain genres or not, Football Manager, day one. Like a Dragon Gaiden, Man Who Erased His Name, day one. and then another AAA title that came out earlier this year, Wild Heart, and then an indie darling, for all intents and purposes, and Thirsty Suitors. That's 4 titles that have way more intrigue and value than anything PlayStation Plus are offering. What's your top pick from this one?
It probably is Football Manager, actually, because I haven't played one in a while, and I forgot that Football Manager 23 was on Game Pass, because I actually haven't bought FIFA yet this year.
What?
I haven't bought it yet.
It's because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, EA Sports FC. I haven't bought it yet because I've just had other stuff to play. But I have been tempted to I just kind of want to start a career mode. But maybe Football Manager is the answer. Maybe I don't get EA Sports FC this year because I've got Football Manager. Maybe that scratches that itch.
Cloud and console as well. I wonder if it has touch input, because that's how you played it on Stadia, right?
I did a bit of touch input.
You tried it, yeah.
My only downside with that was just the size of my phone, really. Mm-hmm. It made it difficult to press things. Well, it worked kind of well. My issue actually is the cloud version is the console version, not the PC version. And this is very much a PC game for me. So that's something if you could get direct touch on the PC version running on the cloud, that would be fantastic. But the console version, it's like, considering it's basically a spreadsheet simulator in a lot of ways. Like, imagine doing, filling out a spreadsheet, your tax return or something at work, using the controller.
Yeah, a little bit more fun.
It works, it does, but the PC version, I think, is the superior way to play it. It's just the way you interact with the game is better on mouse. Not even keyboard, mouse. It's not a mouse and keyboard game, it's a mouse game.
Yeah.
But,
my only experience with Football Manager was watching my cousin play it years ago and just looking at it thinking,
it's not a game to watch someone play.
And you saw this the little dots moving around on the pitch for the 90 minutes.
Apologies to all the FM streamers out there, but this is not a fun game to watch someone else play.
No, I know it didn't sell me on it, to say the least. I'm definitely
maybe we should do a stream. You can be my assistant manager. You can be my ass man.
I'll get my suit up.
I was talking to one of our friends who's a big Football Manager fan, so maybe get him involved.
Yeah, it could be fun. Yeah. We've got Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who raised his name again. AAA title day one. That's a good shout. I would have probably joked with Rob about that one. Can't really remember which one this is. I know there was a lot of stuff for the new Like a Dragon game that was announced at the showcase the other week. The preview.
Is this the one where he was naked on the beach in the trailer?
Yeah, and then it ended up basically being an Animal Crossing clone, but that's just a side piece of content within another Like a Dragon game. It's not the main game, and it's just this franchise has just become the Grand Theft Auto of Japan.
It's so
everything's
prolific.
happening. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's
crazy.
It feels like you can't go 6 months without a Like a Dragon game coming out. What's Sega really pushing this?
They really are. It's their franchise. And then, as I said, I think Wild Hearts came out earlier this year. I enjoyed what I played. I played the I think we got a 3-hour demo or something.
That's the Monster Hunter clone, isn't it, where you could kind of summon like boxes and stuff, platforms.
Yes, I forgot about the boxes until then. Yeah, I enjoyed what I played of it. It's just not for me, basically. But yeah, I think that's one of the first games I trialed when I got my Series S. Started playing at the start of the year while I was on paternity leave, I think. And then Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition gets some DLC. So if you're looking for that definitive Age of Empires experience, the Mountain Royals new campaign is out now. So, moving things on, rounding out the show as well, we've got some review roundups for other titles dropped this week. The big one I wanted to highlight, because I want to be an advocate for this, is Robocop Rogue City. It's out. It's getting reviews. Destructoid gave it an 8.5 out of 10. Windows Central gave it
expected.
Windows Central gave it a 4 out of 5. Eurogame a 3 out of 5.
That's more like what I expected.
Yeah, IGN 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
So the reviews have dropped and they're mixed to average, almost generally positive so far. Might sound like good news. Teon's Terminator game eventually fixed many of the issues, getting a cult following, and many fans claiming it to be largely the most faithful and fun Terminator game ever made. Robocop Rogue City seemingly is following in the same footsteps, leaving gamers satisfied with a well-calculated throwback to simpler times and a shiny representation of a worn-down and satirical setting the movies are known for. The gameplay is a first-person shooter with open-world mechanics set in Detroit, depicting the crime-ridden dystopia of the movies. Players must clear the city of all the criminals conducting investigations, giving out parking tickets, and it's set between Robocop 2 and 3. And again, fully voiced by Peter Weller, the original guy who played Robocop back in the day, with an 80s aesthetic. This game looks fun. I actually seen it. It was on PC Keys. I think Sarge or Al in the chat in our Discord said put it up for 25 quid. And I was like, or 35 maybe. And I was like, oh, but it was on PC. And I thought, I want to play it on PlayStation.
Just plug a DualSense in.
The only reason I didn't buy trophies, Richie, trophies.
Trophies, yeah.
But the only reason I didn't get it is just Christmas. I need to buy presents for people, and I can't be treating myself to another game on top of Spider-Man, Mirage, and FIFA. So I'm holding out, but I'm so glad it's reviewing well because I love those movies: Terminator, Robocop, Starship Troopers.
I want to quickly read an excerpt from the IGN review. It's actually the end of the verdict. This is a solid B movie of a video game, which is exactly what the source material demands. They're saying it's a 7 out of 10, which, objectively it is, but they're also saying is, this game should be a 7 out of 10. It's a fun 7 out of 10. Like, if you into Robocop, play this game. That's kind of what the general verdict from IGN is saying, which is exactly what we were hoping it to be.
That's all I need.
You're not looking at this game and go, oh my god, this is going to compete for Game of the Year. What it should be is a good Robocop game.
Yeah, and that's what it is, which is great to see. You mentioned at the start of the show, Richie, you are currently playing through Pokemon games. So you'll be glad to know that we've got some Pokemon Scarlet and Violet second set of DLC confirmed and due to arrive in December. The first half of Pokemon's Hidden Treasures Aero DLC felt a little short and left you hankering for more of the 9th generation adventures, but worry not, because the second half is just a few short weeks away. Today, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company announced that the Hidden Treasures Area Zero, the Indigo Disc, such a long name, is slated to debut on the Switch December 14th. Similar to the Teal Mask, the Indigo Disc will transport players from the Paldea region to a distant part of the larger Pokemon world as part of a school cultural exchange program. Richie, you played a lot more of this game. It had too many bugs for me, and not just the Caterpies and the Weedles, to keep playing through it, so I actually ditched it last Christmas. I might actually go back to it now. It's a good point. Now I've got that kind of gap in my portfolio.
Now, my thing with this game was, there was bugs and stuff, and the graphics and the frame rate and all that sort of stuff, which was annoying, but they didn't actually ruin the experience for me. What ruined the experience for me is I didn't like the open world. If it was too open, too big, and kind of just bland. I found you know, when you're playing a game, you're enjoying it first and you just fizzle out. Yeah. I've fizzled out of this game so hard. It's like I was bored playing it, and it's rare in Pokemon. I actually almost like Pokemon to be a tighter, shorter experience, and because there's a lot post game that you can do with Pokemon, but the main story I think should be nice and tight, and just because there's just gotta catch them all. Monica they used to use. That's a load of stuff in the post game, and so if you want to play it after you finish the main story to beat the Elite Four, you've got all the stuff to play. And so this unfortunately the DLC they keep bringing out, I'm just not interested because I never rolled credits. I've been tempted to go back, but every time I've been tempted to go back, I've just picked up a different Pokemon game instead because it didn't quite. It's not scratching the itch. I should give it another go.
Well, you should, because rumours here are the Teal Mask introduced, if you didn't know, a set of portion of the new Kit Akami region. The Indigo Disc features Blueberry Academy is actually located in Pokemon Black and White's Unova region. Unova? Yeah. However you say that. A detail which many have interpreted as a sign that the remake of the 5th generation games might be in the works, a la Let's Play Pikachu and Eevee. Along with the addition of fresh Pokemon and a new Elite Four, Nintendo also teased a handful of gameplay features coming, like upgrades to your legendary riding monsters, seemingly allowing them to full-on fly rather than just glide. These features could add a whole different dimension to the open world exploration. That being said, we'll have to wait and see when it releases next month.
I believe in the remake of Black and White.
100%. Black and White. Who's on the cover?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Ones. I couldn't tell you. I played Black and White too, but it was an era where I actually fell off Pokemon during probably Diamond and Pearl, which is the generation before Black and White, and got back into it with X and Y, which is the generation after Black and White. Right. So I kind of just skipped.
Which console was Black and White on? Was that
DS.
The Advance? DS.
I never owned a DS. I didn't actually own a Game Boy Advance. I kind of skipped from Game Boy Color all the way to 3DS. Right, I've went back and played other games since, but I think I borrowed someone's Game Boy Advance to play through the Generation 3 games.
Yeah,
I borrowed.
That's where I missed out.
One of the lads I went to uni with, I borrowed his DS to play Diamond while I was at uni. So that's how I played that one.
What were the remakes we just had? Was it Diamond and Pearl?
That's why I believe Black and White being in the works, maybe for a next year remake. It makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely it's next in line to be remade.
Yeah, I don't think
it'll be a Let's Go version though. I think it will just be a remake like the Diamond and Pearl one. Swear.
I enjoyed. I think I got Diamond. I think I enjoyed Diamond. Obviously Let's Go Pikachu was my favourite because it was just retelling Red.
Diamond and Pearl have some of the best starter Pokemon.
Yeah, I did enjoy it for that.
Chimchar, fire monkey guy, loved him.
I enjoy Sword and Shield.
I enjoyed Sword and Shield, yeah.
But then, this one I just kind of like fell off of, I guess. I need
to give it another go.
There's only
after
so
Final
much.
Fantasy.
Only so much Pokemon. You don't have time. You've got other things. Have you even played Jedi Survivor yet?
Nope.
Oh dear.
I was playing Zelda instead.
Ah, yes, that game also came up this year. Moving on then to round out the show. Xbox reportedly set to block unauthorized third-party accessories. This report came early last week from Windows Central. Several members of the Xbox community have reported seeing a warning message pop up on screen when they plug in unauthorized accessories to their consoles. The warning error, which shows up on which leads you to a support page, shows one of the players trying to connect a non-manufactured by Microsoft or other licensed hardware partner. At the time of writing, it's not been confirmed if this will affect accessories on the Series X and S as well as the Xbox One, but it's fair to assume it'll be a blanket statement across them all. Microsoft has since updated the news article regarding unauthorized access, and I quote, Microsoft and other licensed Xbox hardware partners' accessories are designed and manufactured with quality standards for performance, security, and safety. Unauthorized accessories can compromise the gaming experience on Xbox consoles. Gamers may receive a pop-up warning letting them know it's unauthorized. Eventually, the unauthorized accessory will be blocked from use to preserve the console gaming experience. Mixed feeling out there on the internet with this one.
Don't think it should be mixed feeling at all. This is what Microsoft's saying there is absolute bollocks. It's marketing speak. Oh, we're protecting your console experience by forcing you to buy our stuff. Nah, come on, guys.
I mean,
not buying that.
Is that not just business?
It's
no different than Apple saying you need to buy.
Yeah, and I don't like Apple doing it either.
But that's I can see from...
It's anti-consumerist. Let me buy what I want to play.
I love a Mad Catz controller as much as the next guy.
I personally would buy them. I tend to go for the official stuff, but what I like as a consumer is choice. And just own it, Microsoft. Don't say you're protecting my console, my experience, my gaming experience, when it's clearly what you're doing is you don't want people buying cheaper third-party controllers that you get no cut out of.
Now, this doesn't stop companies going to them and getting them authorized, because we've seen it happen.
Which then Microsoft get cut out of.
Yeah, and they're really good at that. We've seen them do it very recently. I think recently it was with that pop-up screen, like the attachment monitor for your Xbox Series X, S. But in terms of unauthorized thing, I do believe there is an element of security. If you're plugging a device in that's going to mimic itself as a controller or something, you could get into the internal workings of the console. I do get that. But as you said, I think it definitely leans more into maybe lining their pockets with third-party partnerships on accessories than it does necessarily this.
There's something to be said for competitive games locking to certain official things, so people aren't using modified controllers that give them an unfair advantage or that sort of thing. Especially in the actual professional esports.
Yeah.
Situation. For me, in a professional esports situation, if I was running one, you all get the same exact hardware. You don't bring your own, this is what you're using for this competition. Because then it's a level playing field and it's down to skill.
Yeah.
You can be told what it is in advance so you can train on it if you want to, but yeah, so I do think there's an argument there for the console experience by locking it down in the multiplayer setting. But for a single player setting, just if I want to pay £10 for a cheap piece of crap, let me
do it.
Yeah. You too, Sony. You're not getting off the hook with this. Open up Bluetooth for my earbuds so I can use them. So I don't have to buy yours.
Oh, maybe you might have to wait a little bit longer for that. Not long until the Portal's out, actually. Yeah. We didn't have it in the news, but they did actually get a date this past week for it. Moving on, though, away from unauthorized accessories, let's pivot towards our few wrap-up stories. Last of Us Season 2 is now expected to enter early production in 2024 after the writer's strike still winds its way down. HBO boss reporting from Variety has shared the news at a HBO event held in New York earlier on this week, meaning even though the strike still getting wrapped up, and it's obviously had a knock-on effect and delay. It looks like it's due to be start shooting in 2024. Craig Mazin, the showrunner and co-creator, has also said that the scripts were written and they were sent off for basically like final thing before the strikes happened. So it seems like the core of the content has been roadmapped out. It's just getting the green light from, I think, the writers and the actors guilds and stuff to basically go into production. Obviously, HBO probably want this out sooner rather than later. We all remember what happened with the last writers' strikes when it basically... No, not the Clicker Cast. That will be back. But in terms of the writers' strike, obviously had a massive impact on television back in, I think it was 2005. It screwed over Lost. It screwed over Heroes. There was a bunch of other TV shows that basically either the quality dipped or the wait between seasons was too long, and a bunch of other stuff that had a knock-on effect to it. So hopefully things like The Last of Us won't suffer from that. They already have, obviously, the source material. The game's out there and exists, so that's a good starting point. All them other shows that were just trying to wing it and make it up from scratch have nothing to go on, whereas at least, again, with, I think, Neil and Craig, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. It's just a shame we have to wait so long, isn't it?
Yeah. But we knew it was always going to be a bit of a wait anyway. I think we were probably maybe hoping for a 2024 release, but it'll soon be, if it's early 2025.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll be covering it, as you rightly said, Richie, here on the channel, no doubt, with the return, Season 2 of the Clicker Cast. If you are watching The Last of Us, if you're catching up, if you're maybe going to sit down at Christmas and unwrap the lovely Blu-ray disc when it arrives under the Christmas tree from Santa, why not go back and check out the Clicker Cast? It's one of our probably best produced shows we've done in terms of content, where we go through and review and discuss each episode and break it down. So definitely recommend it. I had a fun time doing that show.
Yeah, me too. We did it live, actually. It was fun.
We did do it live. Yeah, that was something a little bit different. And that brings us to an end for this week's episode of the GamerGuild Podcast. And as always, every week we'll round out by looking back through the years of gaming history and picking out some absolute classics. So on this day in video games, what have we got, Richie? Let's see. Ratchet & Clank, the original for the PlayStation 2 from Insomniac of Spider-Man fame. 20 years ago in 2003, on November 4th, Ratchet & Clank launched. Hand it over to you, Richie. What stands out?
The Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap. Nintendo, bring it a Switch. Actually, it might be. It might already be on Switch. Oddly, made by Konami.
It's an interesting one.
I think it was Konami. It might be Capcom.
What is a Minish Cap? Is it a mushroom?
The Minish is a race of creatures in Zelda, but I think they only actually appear in the Minish Cap. They were actually planned to be in Breath of the Wild, but I think they got cut. The Minish Cap refers to Link's hat in this game. You know how sometimes in Zelda games you have a companion?
Yeah.
Is there kind of a help you out? In this game, his hat is sentient.
So it's like Cappy from Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, it's like Nintendo probably took some inspiration for Cappy from Link's hat.
Interesting. Released 15 years ago on this day in 2008, we also had 007 Quantum of Solace, which, don't talk to me about it, Richie. Did you hear my explanation of what happened with Bloodstone on last week's show?
No, I didn't.
I explained to Rob, so again, go watch the video, folks, if it's out. I got to the end of Bloodstone. And
it doesn't leave on the... Yeah, I think you may explain. It does end on the cliffhanger, and then it's never
resolved.
The
game. There's no follow-up game, because it never saw the light of day. It got stuck in development and then got cancelled. So yeah, James Bond will return, apparently. So yeah, I'm a bit lukewarm when it comes to Bond games.
He's had several films since that game came out.
Not the game though. I wanted the follow-up to the game. I wanted the second part of the story. Shout out to Resistance 2 on PlayStation 3, 15 years ago as well, 2008. Oh, Resistance, man. PlayStation, what you doing? Stop sitting on such a great shooter franchise. You're missing that in your library. Give us a remake, all three in a trilogy, the Resistance trilogy. That would sell gangbusters.
Medal of
kind
Honor,
of a mixed
Pacific
bag of other
Assault.
things. Yeah.
Bring back Medal of Honor. Who made the Medal of Honor?
EA. It's EA, but they put all the things into Battlefield for whatever reason, doesn't it? Yeah. And we should point out as well, SOCOM 2 US Navy SEALs, 20 years ago on the PS2. The reason I want to shout that one out, I bought that game, I got the headset, couldn't figure out how the hell it worked without the internet connection or something. Played it a little bit, got confused, and sold it and returned it and took it back, because it was either, as a daft kid 20 years ago, I just couldn't figure out what the hell I was doing with it. I had loads of stuff. It received all its plaudits, rightly so, for changing things up. But I think as someone who didn't understand the internet or connecting a PS2 up to the internet,
that
my
was the
brain
thing,
just couldn't.
I know the PS2, well, technically I didn't net connection, but I don't ever recall ever connecting my PS2 to the internet.
You needed a separate box. You needed like a little...
your modem. I get a modem.
Yeah, which I think is 20 years ago, so it's like a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
I just couldn't comprehend that. I'm the same kid who went in and bought the Sims Vacation
disc
for 20 quid, thinking it was the whole game for 20 quid to get home, and only realised that I needed the original game
and
on top of.
As a 14-year-old, when you managed to get some money out of your parents to buy a game, imagine going back to your parents and go, oh yeah, this big game I bought, I need to go buy this modem for my console so I can actually play it. You ain't going to get that.
Nope. Ain't happening. But
Not back then. Not back then.
I mean, I barely understand what it was today still. But that does bring us to an end of this week's Gamer Guild podcast. Thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in. We do appreciate all your love and support. Special shout out to our Gamer Guild heroes as well, the wonderful folks who support the channel an extra bit further, just like you can. If you listen to the show every single week, why not considering supporting us that little bit more? And you can do that by clicking join below from as little as 99p and get this show early if you so wish. Or, if you want to support us in different ways, head over to the merch store. As I said, Christmas is coming up. Why not treat yourself to a lovely mug, mouse mat, a t-shirt, a jumper, a hoodie. It's getting cold after all. Get a lovely Gamer Guild branded hoodie. Or if you've been a fan of the channel for a long time, we do also have some Sounds of Stadia, Helix Cloud and Players merchandise up there as well. We'll be back later on the week for another live stream. We'd love you to join us. Let us know in the comments and in our Discord server what you'd like us to play this week, because it's open game season now. It might be aliens, it might not be, it might be predators, who knows. But we'll be back. Follow us on social media. I'm at CyberChris2077. Richie is
at RichieC89.
My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
We've been Gamer Guild Podcast. Remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. Take care. See you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.